All right, guys, welcome back. This is going to be our first installation video, 2024. So this is going to be relevant for our Wednesday meeting coming up this week, the offensive install part one. Okay, go ahead and share my screen with you guys here. So just to kind of get back to what I was talking about before, first and foremost, what are we doing? Today we're going to go over the gap runs, Gator, Tiger, Snake. All right, our basic RPOs, so the stick or the gift route, the now and the bubble. And then we're getting into the wide receiver tree a little bit as well with the first four routes from that. Just give you an idea. Again, we are condensing our offense. We cut about 20 different concepts out of it from last year. And instead, we're going to simplify and run more of our more basic stuff, get really, really good at that, and then be able to effectively customize the offense off of that with these wide receiver tags so that we can get individual receivers who we think may have a matchup advantage, or if there's a coverage that we think that we're running and we know like where the holes in that coverage are, all right, that we could put somebody in that position, all right, gives our quarterback a better idea of kind of where we want the ball to go, but also gives us the ability to then again make a more basic offense a lot more versatile with those concepts. So the first thing we're going to do here, I'm going to remind you guys where all this stuff is. All right, you go to Huddle, you go to the playbook under Play Tools. All right, go to the installs, and again, it'll look a little bit different on your phone than it does on my desktop. All right, but this is where we're going to be hanging out today, is in the Football Club Offensive install number 1. Because this is our pre-football club installation, we're just going to do very basic stuff. We're not getting into formations, no alignments, no tags or motions or anything like that. All right, just basic concepts for right now, so it's not going to be all of this. But it doesn't hurt for you guys to get in here and start looking at this stuff on a weekly basis so you can familiarize yourself with it for when we do get to football club, really, streamline things and make it a lot easier for us to move fast. All right, I'm actually going to start with the RPOs, all right, because these are going to apply to any basic run that we have. So anytime that we're just running Gator, Tiger, Snake, we get into our zone, our trap, our man runs, all right, those all have RPOs attached to them, right? And these are the most basic ones. If we don't tag any additional routes to them, this is where you guys are going with these RPOs, so they are constant, all right? So first is our single side route, and this is also referred to as the gift route. So you'll hear us, refer to it as the gift sometimes, but it is a stick. And I think it's very important that we differentiate between a stick and a hitch. All right, I'll get into that a little bit later when we get into the route tree. But the way that our stick is going to work is the stick is 5 yards. It's a 5-yard route from where you start. All right, that's one of the big differences, receivers. So if you're the on receiver, all right, you're going to bust ass for 5 yards, make it look like it's a go route or a fade. All right, then you plant that outside foot in the ground, snap your head, hands, and eyes back to the quarterback, right, and that ball should already be on you. All right, we call it the gift route because this is a pre-snap read that is made by the quarterback the vast majority of the time. We want that ball in the air by the time you snap your head and hands around. All right, it should be on you almost immediately. All right, and again, it's 5 yards from where you started. So if you are the off receiver, and let's say you're 2 yards off the ball, all right, then you're going to only run this to the 3-yard line, right? If you're a yard off, you're going to run it to the 4. Point is, you start from where you start. All right, you go 5 yards, plant that outside foot, head, hands, and eyes back to the quarterback. That ball should already be in the air. And the reason that we have this in here, the reason that it's called the gift, all right, is because it's cheap. It's cheap and easy money. All right, if we've got corners that are going to sit back here at like 7-8 yards, all right, then there's no reason not to throw this thing. If it's first down and we can get 4 or 5 yards off of this thing without any sweat, blood, and tears, all right, that's as good as any run play that we're going to have. All right, so that should just be an automatic. Quarterback tells the tailback he's throwing it with whatever signal or whatever that we have for that particular play, and then he's just going to catch, step, throw that thing out there. Right, should know where the receiver is going to break on that route. And again, it's going to be on you, real hot receivers. And then ideally, you're just breaking one tackle and you're gone. But even if you don't, right, 3 to 5 yards on first down is putting us ahead of the sticks, and that's where we need to be. All right. Second one is our 2 receiver side routes. So the first one is the bubble, right? These routes, what the design is, the goal here is to get you outside away from the defense, right? Most of the defense is in here. This is where the linemen are. This is where the linebackers are. There's usually safeties somewhere in here. All right, so we want to get you away from all that nonsense and out here where there's more space to operate, okay? So the bubble route, you just get a little bit of depth, enough to make it an easier throw for the quarterback, a little bit of leverage for you. All right, we don't want to get super, super deep here because once you catch this thing, we want you sticking your foot in the ground and getting upfield. All right, but we're going to block the outside most defender. So in this case, the corner here. All right, what we got to understand too about this is the mentality of the defense, right? This corner knows that there's nobody left out here, so he's really the last line of defense to the outside. So he's probably going to fight to use the sideline as an extra defender, all right, and work out here to make sure that you can't get outside of him because if he can force you back to the inside, that's where all of his buddies are. All right, so we're going to try and block these guys to the outside. We want to try and hook them out here so that once we catch the ball, we can get outside. If we can't do that, then if you're the blocking receiver, just shove that guy out of bounds, right? If he gets outside leverage on you, just continue to force him out, dump him over the benches. That's fine. All right. Opposite side of that, we have the now. The now is when the outside receiver is off on the two receiver side. All right. So in that case, it's really the same basic concept here. It's just you've already got width as a receiver. So our inside guys coming inside out. We got to make sure that we're starting off nice and flat with this because if this guy sees it coming, right, if he sees the now, he's going to break on that most likely. All right. So in that case, we want you coming nice and flat because honestly, if this guy screams downhill, you might actually like catch him about here for this block. You might have to peel him off the receiver who's catching the ball. All right. But start off nice and flat. If he doesn't come flying down, then you can get up and get this block. And again, we'd like to get to the outside shoulder and hook him so that we can kind of catch this thing, stick your foot in the ground and get back up the sideline. All right. But if we have to force him to the outside, that's fine. Outside receiver is just a 1-2 step, plant the outside foot, come back towards the quarterback about a step, catch this ball and get upfield. All right, we want to gain 3 to 5 yards on these every single time. All right, so that's where, again, don't dally once you catch it. That thing hits your hands, but make sure you secure the catch first and then get upfield, get the yards that you can. All right, that's the most important thing. Last one here is going to be our 3 receiver side, which is going to be a bubble. All right, again, same concept. Now, usually if we've got a 3 receiver side, we're going to be a little bit more extended out here as far as the defense is concerned. So it's going to be a little bit harder to get that outside leverage because they've already got guys out here, right? Not so many dudes in here in the middle. All right, so for that, we're still trying to catch those outside shoulders because if we can get to the outside, that's ideal. All right, but if we can't, if this guy comes, screaming down and he's playing the outside real hard and keeping us in here, that's fine. We can hook the linebacker, great. We can split these two, all right? You want to work to the sideline. So if the corner comes down and we get the linebacker hooked, all right, I want you kind of splitting these and still getting to the sideline and getting up. All right, we want you to have leverage on these guys who are coming from deep and outside to try and get to you here. And that means usually getting back out to the sideline and getting up from there. Okay, but those are your 3 basic RPOs. All right, those will be applicable no matter what. As far as those basic run concepts go, the first one's going to be Gator. All right, we call it Gator. It's just a power. All right, we can either do 1 back power or 2 back power, depending on who's in the backfield. All right, so our gap schemes, the reason that they're called gap schemes is because we have what's called a gap exchange going on here. All right, for us on offense, what that means is we originally over here we're going to have an A gap and a B gap, right? So there's 2 gaps here, one between the center guard, one between the guard tackle. All right, and our splits this year are going to be about a foot. Just to let you guys know, we're closing them down a little bit this year. All right. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to take one of these guys out of here. All right. At least one of these guys out of here. All right. And so what we've done is taken 2 gaps and turned it into 1 gap. And then we're going to stick that guy in over here to the play side. So now we've taken a gap from one side and added it to the other. All right. So if we look at this and say, all right, this guy's responsibility, this nose tackle's responsibility was A gap. Maybe this linebacker's responsibility was B gap. And now we've taken that gap away. Now there's 2 guys for 1 gap. Well, then one of them has to get over the top over here. It's usually the linebacker. All right. Otherwise, there's an unaccounted for gap over here in the defense, means there's a hole for us to run through. Okay. So what we're going to do on the front side is, and you'll hear me say this 100 times, especially linemen, you're going to hear this all the damn time. All right. What are the rules? The rules on the play side of gap. All right. The play side of gap has very simple rules. Those rules are backside gap, second level. So your first rule is there someone in your backside gap? Yes, block that person. All right. This is pretty easy stuff. All right. So backside gap, block that person. If there's not someone in your backside gap, you are responsible to get to the second level. Now, one thing that you're going to see is, especially this happens in 3 down defenses, but we'll see it in the 4 downs as well. You'll also hear me say, like, if somebody crosses your path on your way to do your job, just block that person. All right. So with that in mind, we're gonna kind of consider somebody who's maybe on a shade as that person. So if we've got like a 3 technique here by this defensive tackle, which usually is going to happen, all right, he's kind of on our guard here. All right, we don't want you just straight releasing to the linebacker. This guy's going to scream over the top, and he's a little bit faster than you. We want displacement at the point of attack. That means we want to take this down lineman and we want to move him vertically, because the farther downfield we move him, the further the running back can go before anybody touches him. And the further the running back can go before he gets touched, the better the run play is generally going to be. Okay, so we're going to wind up double teaming this, and we'll get into our calls and everything later. All right, but the point is, we work from the front side to what's called the B spot linebacker, which is the first linebacker backside of the center. All right, so center is always the first guy in the play side. All right, he's got someone in his backside gap. He goes back. All right, then we've got these two right here who are working backside gap to second level. So you guys work together to the B spot linebacker. All right, we've got the backside guard who's our exchange guy. He's the gap exchange, so he's coming and we're going to pull him around to the front side, get around this double team, get as tight to the double team as you can, and then you're going to block what's called the A spot linebacker, which is the first linebacker play side of the center. All right, and then we're going to have a funnel hinge or a seal hinge backside, interchangeable terms. Now, because we just made this hole really big back here, this big old gap, all right, it's really, really important that we seal it first because we might have, I can remember a couple years back, Bettendorf, anytime you pulled this linebacker, they pulled this guard, they had a really, really fast linebacker, and he would literally blitz the backside gap, and he was getting a ton of tackles for loss back here, right? We can't have blitzing linebackers come through this gap. We can't have this tackle if he's like widens out a little bit. We can't have him screaming through this gap. Those are all killers for this play. All right, so the first thing the tackle has to do is secure this gap. You seal, you power step down, right? You get in this gap and help the center. I don't care if we wind up with a double team on this guy. That's fine for a second. All right, and then you can funnel out or hinge out, excuse me, to pick up the defensive end or the backside linebacker that we're trying to run off the backside. Right, this guy isn't going to get there. All right, in the time it takes you to power step down a couple times and then kick back out. All right, and if you want to see this stuff in action, all right, we've got really, really good videos that are attached to these. I highly encourage you to go in and watch these videos, all right, because that's where you're going to see a lot of this stuff in practical application. You're going to be able to see proper technique and leverage and things like that, all right? Now on the front side of this, when we have two backs in the formation, right, our super back is going to do what's called a J block or a kick out. All right. One of the things that you're going to hear me, one of the other things you're going to hear me say a lot, right, is first man kicks, second man climbs. Right. What that means is when we're kicking out to a certain side, when we've got these gap scheme plays, right, there's usually somebody who's kicking out, or we're reading the defensive end, but usually there's somebody who's kicking out, right, and there's somebody else who's pulling around for a linebacker. All right, so in that case, the first guy is always going to kick out. All right, second guy is going to climb. So first puller kicks, second puller climbs. All right. If you're pulling to the right, you hit with your right shoulder, pull right, pull left, hit left. Again, if you've, varsity guys from last year will remember all these little phrases. All right, so you're going to put your right shoulder super back on this defensive end and try to kick him out. Our guard is going to pull around real tight, stay nice and square, and he's going to put his right shoulder on this linebacker and kick him out. All right, so that this thing can come right downhill. And running backs, I'll tell you right now, in all these gap scheme runs, the real key here is going to be to follow your puller. All right, specifically the second puller. Right, in this case, the super back counts as our first puller because he's in the backfield. All right, but the guy coming up for the A spot linebacker, that's who you want to follow. All right, don't get ahead of this guy, or else there's a free running linebacker coming right down your windpipe here. All right, you take a little bit of a second. All right, have a little bit of patience. All right, and you can even just put your hand on the back of this puller. All right, and give him a little bit of a push. All right, and if this linebacker decides to jump inside and we have to catch him with the left shoulder, you spill to the outside. If he stays outside, we catch him with the right shoulder. You cut it right up the gut. All right, but that's kind of the key for you running backs in terms of what you're doing here. Is you want to follow that second puller to daylight. All right, let him make you right based on what the linebacker does. One change we're going to make this year: tight ends or superbacks, if you are attached on the front side of these, you are no longer blocking down. All right, so if we go like this particular case right here, pro right, gator right. Last year we would have the tight end blocking down this defensive end. Don't want to do that this year. All right, we want you arc releasing for this outside linebacker. All right, couple of reasons for that. Number one, it's a better matchup for us in terms of size and in terms of scheme. Secondly, we want to be able to do some fun things with this tight end. We want to be able to have you like release out and then shoot out here for an arrow, right? Maybe we have a read on, quarterback pulls it, and then we put this linebacker in a bind. Does he want to come down on the quarterback, or does he want to follow you out into the flat, right? Kind of the modern day triple option. Maybe we want to release you up the seam and get a little bit of a pop pass look to it, right? If we feel like this A spot linebacker's keying on us again, really squirrely and screaming downhill. All right, we just slip you right up the seam and get you the ball right here. All right, so there's some fun things we want to do with that. It all starts with you releasing off the front side, though. So that's what we're going to do this year instead of having you block down. All right, and then we've got obviously our RPOs on the outside. Now that we've kind of explained the basics of gap, right, the rest of this goes pretty quickly. All right, Tiger is the GT counter for those of you who kind of follow football. And again, if you don't watch a ton of football, please start watching it. It's the best way to learn is to watch the game. All right. NFL is wrapping up, college football is done. There's always ESPN Classic, the XFL is starting up, Canadian football, whatever. Right, find some football to watch. All right, but it comes in waves and everything. For a long time, everyone was running triple option, then everyone was running zone in the West Coast, and then spread offenses up tempo. The new thing that everybody's going gaga over the last 2 years is GT counter. All right, so our GT counter is just our tiger play. We've been running it for a while now. All right, all this is a gap scheme where we're exchanging two guys instead of one. All right, so what are our rules, right? Play side of counter or of a gap scheme. It's backside gap, second level. So we're backside gap, backside gap. All right. You're coming on the backside gap. There's nobody there. You're going up to the second level. We still want you kind of following this path. All right. Because if this defensive lineman decides to spike out, all right, then you're going to catch him on your way and we'll just turn this into a double team up to the B spot linebacker. All right. But again, if you follow your rules, backside gap, second level, all right, we're going to be just fine. And the center always goes back. He doesn't really go to the second level unless it's a 3 down, but we'll get into that stuff later. All right. First man kicks, right? That's our guard. You pull left, hit left, try to put your left shoulder on this defensive end, pull up into the line. Don't pull super flat or he's going to spill up underneath you. Pull up into the line. All right. And catch this guy with your left shoulder. So first man kicks, second man climbs for the A spot. Pull left, hit left. All right, super back on the backside of Tiger holds off this defensive end as opposed to us having the seal hinge. You're just exchanging responsibilities really with the tackle here. And then anytime we're opposite hip running a counter play, tailbacks, we always want you to take a little counter step here. All right, the action of these guys coming down and you taking a counter step looks a little bit like zone. So we may influence these linebackers to the backside. And also, you're faster than our guys are up front, right? Just those are facts. So that little counter step is going to set you up better to follow that second puller. Again, follow this guy to daylight, put your hand on his back. All right. Based on where this linebacker decides to take on that block, that's where you should be able to find a hole to squeeze through there. Okay. Here we've got to look at a two receiver side RPO. We got the now out here. All right. That's being run along with this. And then, of course, we have the gift route to the other side that could get thrown. All right. And then the last one for today is snake. Snake is our GH counter, which is just a change up to the GT counter. All right. Same thing, only the superback and the tackle have now exchanged responsibilities. So again, play side of a gap scheme, backside gap, second level, backside gap, second level, right? Displace this guy, first level, get to the B spot linebacker, right? We're pulling first puller kicks. So now our guard is closer to the hole. So he's pulling down flat. All right, you're going to kick out the defensive end, pull right, hit right, put your right shoulder on this guy, pull up into the line a little bit, put your shoulder on him. All right, second guy's going to climb. So super back, if you're here in the box, you're going to counter step. If we have you like in a wing, then you would just start right away. But again, you're usually faster than our guard. So we want you to take that little counter step there. All right, set you up. And then tailbacks, we're not going to run a ton of same side. I just put this in here so you can kind of see it, right? It's kind of a step in delay, right? Wait until that superback comes around and then again, follow him to daylight, right? Wherever this linebacker decides to take on the block. We want to put our right shoulder on him, kick him out so that it's more of a downhill thing for you. But if he bounces inside, all right, then we can always kind of bounce this out here. Heck, this thing could break all the way outside based on what the corner does with the, tight end arc releasing here. So we've got the bubble screen on the back end. Those are our plays for today in terms of gap scheme. And again, I just want to really, really encourage you guys to get into the videos here. All right. The videos are the best thing for you in terms of seeing these plays. All right. Here we got like Alabama showing, footage, talking through this. This would be like if we ran, like a flex with a wing. All right. Because we know that their defensive end widens to the widest guy. It's the same assignments, right? This would still be like gator left. You still got to get in there, dig this guy out. We've got backside gap second level by the front side of this thing, right? We've got the puller coming from the backside with the gap exchange for the A spot linebacker. All right, and then you can see the tailback there just kind of reads that puller's block, and hits it right up the hole. We've got such good clips of this. This is Oregon running GT counter is really, really good. And then we've got Michigan running their GH counter and not just running it, but talking through it too. You get to hear their one of their offensive linemen talk through their GH counter and kind of their attitude. See what happens when like the defensive linemen stunt over the top and stuff. So again, really, really good opportunity to get into the videos and watch those and see the way that these high level guys are blocking it. And kind of the goal is for us to emulate that. All right, last piece for you today is going to be, whoops, I know I'm trying to get these things uploaded. We'll see if it actually works for me or not. You know, we're just going to do it from here. So I can get out of this, go to the installs, boop, wide receiver tree. All right. Last thing we're going to talk about today is the first 4 routes in the receiver tree. All right, we have 2 named routes, the drag and the arrow, which are essentially the same route in opposite directions. The arrows go out, drags go in. All right, so not going to worry about that. More worried about the numbered routes. So you have the concept of this, the numbered routes, and then all of the stuff is down here. But the even numbered routes break in, odd numbered routes break out. Okay, so generally speaking, the lower the number is closer to the line of scrimmage is where you're looking to catch this thing. The down here the videos are all the signals because we have signals for these. The one thing in the videos that's different is that we did change the 5 route from an out route to a spur route. Okay, so that's a spur now. That's the only thing. But for today, what we're worried about is first of all, 0 is the hitch. All right, and I talked before about the difference between a stick and a hitch. All right, we're going to do that. So a stick is 5 yards from wherever you are. So you bust ass for 5, break, and then head, hands, and eyes back to the quarterback. All right, the hitch, you're actually coming back to the quarterback. So here you go to 7 yards. Doesn't matter if you lined up on or off the ball. All right, you're going 7 yards past the line of scrimmage. Right, difference there. And then you are breaking down and you're coming back to the quarterback. And you keep coming back to the quarterback until the ball hits you in the hands. All right, don't just come back like 2 yards and wait for it. Keep coming back until the ball hits your hands. All right, that's kind of the key here. Move away from the defender, get yourself in a better position as you come back to the ball to make that catch. All right, so 7 yards up, break down, come back to the quarterback. If the quarterback was on the right hash here, right, that would change the angle that this guy came back in this direction because you want to come straight back to your quarterback. All right, but that's the 0 is the hitch. All right, our 1 route's just going to be a 5 yard out. This says 6 yard because really you're going to bust ass for 5 and then break down. It takes about a yard to stop, right? And then we're going to break to the outside. And you want to try and meet this thing at about like 5 yards at the sideline is really where you want. So that line should be a little bit more like this. Okay. But you're breaking down at 5, get outside. All right. Try and catch this thing about 5 yards, if not a little bit past that. All right. Our 2 route is just 3-step slant. So outside, inside, outside foot, plant, and get into the soft spot in the zone with that. All right. Try not to take it too vertical or else DB could undercut it. And then number 3 is our 10 yard or 11 yard out. All right. So you bust ass for 10 yards, break down, and then again, come back towards the sideline. All right. Those are going to be your first 4 routes that you guys learn in the route tree. But again, let's keep working on this stuff, man. Get into these books as soon as you possibly can. Start working on this stuff. All right. The mental side of it is way more important. The faster we can get the mental stuff down, all right, the more physical we can be on the practice field. All right, the faster we can play, the better we're going to be, the more competitive we're going to be. All right, because if you know what you're doing, you can do it with confidence. When you play with confidence, you play with speed and aggression. All right, it's when you're not sure what to do is usually when guys start to go about half-assed because they're worried about making a mistake. And I would much rather have you guys playing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. All right, we'll win way more games not worrying about making mistakes and just going 1,000,000 miles an hour. So first part comes knowing it and the confidence that comes with knowing it. But appreciate you guys' attention, and we'll see you on Wednesday.